waste of time I've ever heard of in my life. And the only people who are benefiting from this are huge companies. Like the idea of HP coming out of their garage and Apple coming out of their garage
That can't
cannot
happen again.
happen. It
Yeah.
cannot happen. You will be sued out of existence.
And lawyers. That's who's
Yeah.
benefiting from this is the lawyers.
Oh, yeah, totally. And patents, it's just like non-free software. Patents also hinder advancement of technology because if someone gets a patent on whatever, then they're going to hoard it and they're only going to make whatever they deem is, worth an upgrade to whatever, patent they have on an algorithm or whatever it is. But if you had free, when you have free software, you could have 100 guys looking at the same line of code and they could make it that much better. And someone's going to think of something the other guy didn't think of, or vice versa. And that's how, technology can advance. That's how software can advance.
I agree. It sounds exciting, Jonathan. It really does. It sounds like I like the freedoms.
Yeah. And like I said, it's just got a bad stigma because people think, because we call it free software that, oh, well, you have to give it away and then you can't make money. And,
right.
I don't want to create something to give away and not make money. You guys should pay for my software because I work so hard on this and I'm worth money, which, you are. You should get paid, but you shouldn't, make the source code non-free. You shouldn't lock people into your world and then hold them to your whims. Like as a software programmer that, doesn't produce free software.
Right.
So
right. And like two quickies. Yes, corporations are what made this country great on a global arena. Okay. If we didn't work so hard and our corporations were not as successful, we would not be the superpower. This country would not be anything what it is today. With that said, the corporations themselves are not what made the country great. It was the individual thinkers doing things to make things great. FDR, I believe it was, said, we are not a product-based country anymore. We are a service-based country starting now. And if you see it now, how much of the stuff in our houses are made in the US?
Zero.
Virtually nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
Seriously.
We are a service-based country. Things like real estate agents, tag and title services, and like shop things, offering a service of a store. We are a service-based country, and the sooner we admit that, the sooner, to be honest, this economy is going to get better. But I digress with that. Okay, here's a real-world example of what the FSF is looking out for, okay? Yes, they have grand ideas and grand thoughts of how things honestly should be. Now I'm going to hit the people like me right in the face with a brick, let's just say. If you go to the effectivebydesign.org/Nintendo, okay? My son this year for Christmas got a 3DS. Okay, you ready? A couple things that the Nintendo 3DS does in the terms of service, which no normal person will even read the first 5 words of the terms of service, okay? The Nintendo 3DS tracks all of your activity, claims it uses it for data. Steve, didn't we just go through this?
Yeah.
With Carrier IQ?
Yep.
Which I'm sure now they're called Carrier GQ, but they haven't told anybody yet. It will also transmit information back to the network, back to the home base, which means I got to do some packet sniffing so I can see what is happening. They have the ability to remotely, silently update your operating system on that device, including and not limited to bricking the device. Some people are saying, and there's no, I think, direct confirmation, that if they believe you are tampering with it, you are trying to hack at it, i.e. make it do something that it wasn't intended to do, like one of the 4 software freedoms, they're going to brick the device from afar. And the last thing, which I heard, was children under 6 should not use the 3D feature on the Nintendo 3DS. Since I got Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time for it, and I've played a little bit, a little bit of it. Let's just say I know first-hand basis that device is utterly intended for small hands. Okay, there's no arguing. It's made for small. Steve D'Amico would be at home playing a 3DS.
I would too. I have little girl hands.
Right. Okay. Now that said, there's a disclaimer: children under the age of 6 should not use the 3D feature at all. I saw nowhere in it to say disable 3D, period. You know what I mean? There's a slider on the side that any kid can go and turn it on and off. It's tonight, 2 nights after Christmas, is the first night my son played it right before he was going to bed. My son sat next to me about an hour after I told him to go to bed for that full hour, saying, when I close my eyes, everything feels like it's moving and my legs feel really funny, Dad.
Whoa.
Man.
That's why he was up when you called me, Steve.
Oh my God, man.
Now, because my kid is so unbelievably good, okay? I'm not trying to rub it into anybody, but my kid is gold, okay? The whole time he was up, he literally sat in place with his eyes closed, and I could see his eyes and his eyelids. They were moving a lot more than they normally would. Maybe he was just thinking or something. I don't know. But it was a lot of that. And then every now and then he would like rub his legs. And then he said, I don't feel, that it doesn't feel very good. I feel weird. So let's just say if tomorrow I might be taking super glue to the little 3D slider, turning it to off and, doing that.
That is interesting.
And
yeah, it's something to do with like kids' eyes aren't like fully developed by that age, and that's why they're saying don't do the 3D stuff because it really messes with them.
Yeah, and
it's like buying a 3D TV with the glasses and saying you can't watch it. I mean, it's just such a wrong way to market. I mean, why create the device? It's nuts. There's going to be a lot of kids under 6 playing this thing. Come on.
Oh, yeah. Now, here's what, honestly, I'm going to try to, somebody out there is going to do packet sniffing on it, okay? They're going to know every server this thing's connecting to. This is a real good reason for Daddy-O to install something like ClearOS and run what's called a bind server for DNS, and for me to blacklist every single one of those domains. So no matter what, that device cannot communicate back with them. I don't want somebody modifying the device I paid my hard-earned money for, that I own that device.
Exactly.
Sure.
I mean, if you want to ask me, can we do updates? That's one thing. But to silently do something to my kid's device, let me tell you something. You can modify, and Google can get into my device and take spyware off and do whatever they want to do. I don't care. You break my child's heart, dude, Nintendo of America, there better not be an office close. That's all I gotta say.
Damn.
Maybe Dora's gonna start sending them cardboard bricks now too.
Exactly. Well, and to be honest, that was a long way of saying things that the FSF are doing truly and honestly affect nearly everybody listening. That's just one of the little things that they're fighting for our personal freedoms on. Mm-hmm. Agree, disagree, love, hate, anyone involved with the FSF, it's the kind of thing you have to admit they're doing something to protect you and me.
Yeah, people might not like how they go about, campaigning against stuff, but it's for a reason. It's not to be jerks. That they do like what you said, Dora. They put the terms of service up there and said you should probably read these few lines here that you didn't weren't aware of or didn't bother reading and see what you're getting into. That's what defective by design is for, and that's the stuff that the FSF does.
Yeah, and I'll say everyone's heard this line, and you better believe it. The squeaky wheel does in fact get the grease. Mm-hmm. If they're ultra polite about everything, nobody's gonna listen to them.
Exactly.
And honestly, that might be a gullible, a stupid, a shallow way of saying it myself, but once in a while you gotta shake things up just a little bit to make sure people are looking at you.
Right.
So
they're actually sorry, Dory. They're actually sending bricks to Nintendo.
Yeah, they had when I was interning there over the summer. They had when I started there, maybe 400 or 500 of these cardboard bricks, Every day, the other intern would go down to the post office and send 5 of them to Nintendo's office. They got 5 cardboard bricks a day from the FSF, and I don't remember what the brick said on it, but it was basically saying something about, defected by design, the Nintendo 3DS. It had a message on all the bricks, and they made their point with Nintendo.
Wow.
Yeah.
So and one last thing that that they did that is extremely important. A lot of people, no one said anything to me about it, but that's why I feel it's right to call GNU Linux, because Richard Stallman came up with the GPL license, the GNU public license, and that is what makes software free. When he heard about Linus Torvalds making this Linux kernel, he went to him and told him, "You must release this kernel under the GPL." Because Richard Stallman, up until that point, he made free software for everything else except a kernel, and he needed a kernel to finish a free software operating system. And he met with Linus and said, "Look, you really should release this under GPL," because Linus was going to release it under a non-commercial license. That means that would have meant no commercial entity could have ran the Linux kernel. There'd be no Android, there'd be no Google, there'd be no Facebook, there'd be no Amazon, there'd be no Red Hat, there'd be no 65% of the web servers on the internet right now. There'd be none of that if it weren't for Richard Stallman speaking with Linus Torvalds, telling him, "You need to release this kernel under the GPL." Wow. And that has made all the difference in the world.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And I'll say there would be no DVRs. There would be no set-top boxes that really did anything except change the channel. There'd be no routers
in your house.
Right. The router in your house wouldn't exist. You wouldn't have that. You would basically, it would almost be like almost steampunk-esque technology in comparison, what we would have to do to connect and do stuff.
We'd all be running Windows CE on our cell phones.
Oh, man, that's enough right there.
I just got nauseous.
Yeah.
I mean, the list goes on. Like, just if you sat down and literally thought about every little device you mess with, all of that wouldn't exist.
It's amazing.
Or it would, and it would be probably really bad.
Oh, it would suck. It would completely suck. Honestly, I say a lot of times, I think, I believe, because really it's hard to say a lot of things are true fact. Let me tell you something. It's a true fact. It would all completely suck. Computers, we would basically be running Windows 95-ish looking desktops still.
You don't think anybody else would come up with something?
I think it would be slowed down.
I mean, there's BSD that I guess that could have maybe caught on, or like Unix or something, but they're in the same family-ish. They're kind of like each other, but not. So I mean, it's hard to say, but I mean, Linux is what took over on every embedded system and everything. So I mean, it's hard to say, But
yeah.
Well, I'll just say this is going to make somebody really mad out there. Okay. Yes, BXD exists, but it's like saying, well, you can go watch the St. Louis Chargers play football instead of going to watch the Green Bay Packers. Why, yes, it is still football. It's kind of the same thing.
Ouch.
It's well.
What do you think Philip Rivers will say about that?
Well, I don't care. I don't care. He's all the way over there. No, he's on the Chargers.
Oh. Yeah, well, you said St. Louis Chargers, so I'm not sure if you meant the Rams or the Chargers.
I meant the Rams.
Okay.
Chargers suck too, but that's different. But now, and it's only because the BSD distros their main goal, it seems like, is not to be desktop friendly or pretty. They're meant to be hardened, sitting in the back of a closet, doing firewall protection and a lot of server kind of things. I can't picture a BSD set-top box. Maybe they exist. I don't know.
Huh. Interesting stuff, guys.
I guess to bring it all back around, this is the main focus of the GNU Linux Fest. It's a free software advocacy, and the main focus is to show people what free software can do, what it can do in the future, what it's done in the past, how you can benefit from it, how it can benefit from you, contributing into the community. It's all like a grassroots movement. It's all about free software advocacy. It's not like this big corporate, have all these companies there and showing off their latest products using, quote unquote, they call it open source software because that's the politically correct thing to do. It's more about the individuals you know, gaining these four freedoms into their life, bringing these four freedoms into their workplace, into their school, you know, into their families. It's about them understanding what free software really is.
Right now, here's the thing. It sometimes is hard for people to comprehend